How's it going, everyone? This is Matt here at NSA MWR at Hampton Roads headquarters. Today I'll be providing you guys with Module 1 of the Mission Nutrition education program. So I'll try to make it as interesting as I can. A lot of this information is for you guys to learn and pass on to your command. So what we got first is just the role of nutrition in your health. Okay, so understanding nutrition's role in health is that it can positively impact and influences all of the following. Okay, so we got weight regulation, mental and physical performance, overall energy level, reduced risk of short and long-term diseases, increased quality of life, healthier and stronger immune system. Okay, so a lot of these are broken down separately, but all of them have one thing in common. All right, so it's all tied to, healthy living and whatnot. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper as we go. So the health benefits of healthy eating and active living, right? So it helps control weight, which is an increasing issue not only in the military, but as the United States as a whole. Reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, that is the #1 killer, okay, of all the diseases in the world. So trying to eliminate your risk for that goes a long way. Reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So diabetes is also a growing issue in this country. Type 2 diabetes is brought on by being overweight, okay, obese, and extreme obesity. If you get everything back in order with nutrition, physical activity, you may have good results in flipping that diagnosis. Okay, reducing the risk of some cancers. Not everything will be 100% reduced, but you will greatly reduce your risk for a lot of these cancers by eating the right foods and being active. And then increasing the chances for living a longer and healthier life, right? So that goes along with eliminating diseases, gives your chance the ability to live longer and happier. Right, so what goes along with poor nutrition? Right, so a lot of risks that go along with having a bad diet. We've got weight gain, heart disease, which we've mentioned, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, which of course is type 2, multiple forms of cancers. If you are overweight, you are more susceptible to developing sleep apnea and having disturbances in your sleep, and other respiratory conditions, decreased performance and overall work production. And then you add all those up together and you get a shorter quality of life. So a little bit closer look at weight gain. So this is for the American population. So approximately 66% of everyone in America is considered overweight. That is a huge problem, right? With 27% being obese. And then going back to the numbers from 1980, it was approximately 15%. So, and this is from 2012. So you're looking at over 32 years, we've nearly doubled the amount of people who have become obese, all right? So why have so many people become overweight and obese over the past 3 decades? There's a number of answers that can fit that question. All right, so overweight and obesity for adults. So looking at BMI, which is body mass index, a number calculated from a person's weight and height. So BMI is a fairly reliable indicator of body fatness for most people. Okay, so you could throw in athletes, someone who is super fit, they might have that extra muscle mass. For someone that's 5'10", maybe they're 200 pounds, they would be considered overweight, but because of their active lifestyle, they're kind of an anomaly, right? So any pro athlete their numbers would be skewed as well. So looking at BMI here, anything below 18.5 would be considered underweight. 18.5 to 24.9 is normal. 25 to 29.9 is considered overweight. And then anything 30 and above is, we're getting an alarming number here, which you would be obese, and you might need to look at changing your lifestyle. All right, so then a BMI calculator, you can go to the cdc.gov /healthy weight to figure yours out. All right, so now we're going to get into a couple different maps here to show you where the obesity comes from. Okay, where are the areas of concern? So this is 2014, right here. So we got the prevalence of self-reported obesity among U.S. adults. Okay, so this is everybody. So looking at more of the West Coast, their BMI is 25% to less than 30%. So not great or good, but it could be a lot worse. California's doing a good job at being in the normal range where we want to be. Then as you start to move towards the Midwest and the Southeast is where we're starting to see a lot of our problems. Okay, so we got Arkansas and Mississippi in the dark red, so they are greater than or equal to 35% for their BMI. Okay, that's not good at all. And then Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina. You even got West Virginia, who is the same color as Mississippi and Arkansas. And there's a lot of conclusions that we can draw, but a lot of it comes from what type of foods are you eating in those areas. So we know in the South, a lot of deep fried foods is very common and well liked. A lot of that, comes from the style of cooking and food that you eat on a daily basis. Okay, and then we go to the Northeast here. Vermont and Massachusetts are looking pretty good here, as well as the DC area. All right, so now we're splitting into different ethnicity groups. Okay, so this is non-Hispanic white adults. Okay, so looking at Colorado's the first one that we're going to talk about here. They are in the best shape. Okay, as well as Hawaii. So they are less than 20% on their BMI, which is outstanding. Okay. Then you have improvements with Montana, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico joining California as being green. Florida is green. New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. Then you see a great number of the Midwest and Southeast states are that orange color, but we're not seeing any deep red in this slide. So, a dramatic change, okay, from what we just looked at. So we were looking at white adults only in the previous slide, so now we are looking at black adults only, and there is a massive problem. I'd almost give it about 75 to 80% of this map is in the worst condition that this targets, right? So we have 4 green states, okay? Then Wyoming and Idaho, or not Wyoming, Montana and Idaho don't have enough data available, but looking at Washington all the way down, we got all the South and Midwest covered in dark red. Even as you go to the Northeast, they are orange. Okay, and then you got Utah and Colorado just sort of hanging on in the yellow. So massive difference, okay, between white and black adults in their eating patterns. So now then we'll switch ahead to Hispanic adults. It's slightly better, but still not good. So the southeast is actually an improvement. So Mississippi is actually in the green with looking at Hispanics. Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, and Iowa all in dark red, as well as Idaho up here. Also Michigan, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia not looking good. Couple green states, some turned back to yellow, but it all comes down to what you grew up eating and then how that developed as you became an adult. Alright, so no matter what ethnicity you are, it comes down to one common denominator, and that obesity is not only serious, but is very costly, right? So we got more than 1/3 of the adults in this country have obesity, which is approximately 78.6 million people. Since 1970, there has been a dramatic increase in obesity in the United States. Recent data suggests a slowing or leveling off of this trend. Yes and no. The more fast food becomes popular, which makes it shoot up. Now we have a good number of companies and people or celebrities trying to push the fitness industry forward again, which is kind of button heads, but some people have really made changes, some people have not. So we're just trying to do our best to push the fitness and healthy eating lifestyle forward. So getting into some cost numbers here. So the annual medical cost for obesity among adults in the US is estimated to be $147 billion per year, and this is by 2008 dollars. So now we're in 2021, and then you add on the stimulus checks, the money printing, and all of this. This number could be massive. Okay, I'm not even going to throw out a guess, but it's definitely way more than $147 billion a year at this current time. And that's just medical costs for obesity only. Okay, so obesity is associated with the leading causes of death in the US, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and then you add cancers onto that. So if you're obese and you take care of yourself, you've changed your lifestyle, and then you become healthier weight, you get your heart healthy, right? So now you're reducing your risk for diseases associated with your heart, okay? Becomes more efficient. Other parts of your body become more efficient, okay? You're able to digest and eliminate bad cells, okay? Have more of a fighting chance if you were to have a cancer risk in your family, as well as, getting rid of type 2 diabetes. If you are at a healthy weight and you take care of what you put in your body, developing type 2 diabetes becomes significantly less. All right, so looking more into the medical costs with obesity rising. So this says 1998. This is in 2008 dollars. Okay, so the total cost for medical care in 98 was $74 billion a year, which was 6.5% of the U.S. medical cost. Then you go forward just 8 years. We're not even at a decade. And it has doubled, right? So we're now at 147 billion a year, and that percent has nearly gone up 3%. And that was 2006. That was 15 years ago. I wouldn't even want to know what it's at now. It's probably tripled that amount or more since. So increased prevalence, not increased per capita cost, was the main driver of the increase. But very alarming numbers. All right, so how has it evolved so fast? So one, overeating, larger portions has evolved over the years. A large drink back in the 70s and 80s was significantly smaller than a large that you would get today. And then lack of physical activity. This picture right here, if you look at that, someone walking their dog while driving a car, that's kind of overboard to a sense, but if you add in the technology we have gained in the past, couple, 2-3 decades, we've got gaming systems. People want to play games instead of go outside, play a game of pickup basketball or whatever. Portion sizes at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Taco Bell, all those have grown. The meals get larger, and just a lack of healthier home-cooked meals as a whole. All right, so there's a quote that came from this article of Newsweek that the first generation where children will die before their parents is a real possibility. Right? In the U.S. alone, over 12 million children and adolescents are obese. Okay, that is 33% of all of the children in this country are overweight. Over the last 2 decades, the rates for overweight adolescents have tripled, okay? And it's only getting worse. All right, so we got fat for life, question mark. 6 million kids are seriously overweight, and what families can do about it? All right, so here's some reasons for the obesity epidemic. Longer working hours, both parents work, or single parent families, less time to PT, work out, shop, and cook. So the easiest thing to do, we're going to stop at McDonald's or Taco Bell on the way home. All right, Americans drive instead of cycle or walk. We're more sedentary with computer-focused jobs than we were before. Video games replaces recreation. Fried cooking is popular where higher obesity rates exist. Okay, remember those maps that we went through? High calorie drinks, so you got soft drinks, sports drinks, energy drinks, specialty coffees. Okay, your fancy coffees that you get from Starbucks, they're not, under 100 calories, okay? They are more the 300 to 400 calorie range. Then more high-calorie foods that are conveniently available. All right, fast food, gas stations, convenience stores, vending machines. You're not going to find, vegetables or very few fruits that might be available in a vending machine because they are perishable. Right. All right. So we'll move on. So those numbers that we looked at before, that's the U.S. as a whole, right? So remember those numbers that we said. Now we're going to separate the military away from the entire population. Look at these numbers. Okay, so 2011, 65.3% of all military personnel are overweight, while 13% are classified as obese. Okay, so 2008, 3 years prior, it was 3.5% lower, so a 3-year difference, we're jumping 3%. And then back in 1995, we were at 51% were overweight. So to me, back in 95, I would say that we had a problem with 51%. But then you follow the next 16 years, we've increased 14%. Okay, and that was even 10 years ago. We could be pushing close to 70%. Military dependence, 2005 survey, 19% of DoD dependent adolescents are obese, more than any age group of non-DoD adolescents. Okay, so then again, clear pattern of increase. Doesn't matter who you're at. So even being in the military, being having the physical fitness, depending on your jobs, is huge. You gotta be in a ready position 24/7. So impact on military readiness, right? So nearly 1 out of 4 young adults are too heavy to even serve in our military. So right away, 25% of all children is eliminated before they can even enlist because they can't qualify. All right. So going along with the impact, so the mission readiness is an organization of retired senior military leaders who presented to Congress. So as of 2012, over 9 million 17 to 24-year-olds in the United States are too fat or physically unfit to serve in the military. That is 31% of all young adults. All right, so you can look at that at missionreadiness.org. So right away, 1/3 of the population from 17 to 24-year-olds, which is the majority of where new enlistees are coming from, they're already eliminated, and they won't even have the choice if they want to enlist or not because they are too physically unfit. Okay, so that's a huge problem. You don't want to limit yourself just based on your size of having a career that you want to have. All right, so what we've talked about, this is putting the 10 biggest health issues right in front of you from 2010, and I would argue that these are probably the exact same today. So lack of physical activity, overweight and obese, tobacco use, substance abuse, responsible sexual behavior, mental health has become a big one as of late, injury and violence, environmental quality, immunization, and access to health care. All right, so 2012 leading causes of death. So going back to the 10 issues that we just went over, four of the top 7 are directly impacted by nutrition. Okay, so we look at heart disease, cancer, lung disease, stroke, accidents, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes. So heart disease and cancer, the top 2 on the list, significantly higher than all the rest listed behind them, impacted by nutrition. Okay, you have a say in reducing your risk of those 2 things. Okay, and then you got stroke and diabetes. Alright, so then we got why is this a bad thing? I think that picture speaks for itself. We got a whole list of medical complications for obesity. Personally, I do not want to experience any of these on here. So you have stuff from infertility issues, polycystic ovarian syndrome for women, osteoarthritis, skin problems, all sorts of cancers here, severe pancreatitis, diabetes, hypertension, cataracts, stroke, pulmonary diseases, all right, obstructive sleep apnea. None of those sound appealing whatsoever. All right, so you got the number of Americans living with diet and inactivity related diseases. Okay, so 203 million people in this country are overweight or obese. 80 million with high blood pressure. Almost 20 million with diabetes. Nearly 17 million with coronary heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, and stroke. Okay, so cost of diet and inactivity related diseases. $312 billion in the cardiovascular disease. Cancer is over 200 billion. Diabetes almost at 200 billion. Another form of heart disease, 160 billion. There's that obesity number again. So that $147 billion earlier was just obesity related alone, okay? Then you add in 5 other categories, and we are nearly at $1 trillion cost just based on poor eating and not exercising. All right, that would, so the CDC estimates that if all physically inactive Americans became active, we would save $55 billion in annual medical costs. All right, so imagine what we could get done if the government had an additional $55 billion not wasting away on people who aren't making proper life changes. So other costs for obesity, going back to 2012, approximately $1,500 per year increase for an obese person compared to non-obese. Okay, 30 to 50% more employers can charge obese workers for health insurance if they decline to participate in a qualified wellness program. This transportation one is alarming to me personally. So there's $5 billion spent annually for additional jet fuel to fly heavier passengers. $4 billion annually for additional gas in cars, and 938 million gallons is the additional amount. Okay. And then we got consumer spending, $40 billion annually spent on diet products in 2008. So, and then $7.5 billion estimated amount for clothing stores with plus size clothes. So the consumer spending part, I'll take a minute to speak about this. So there is a huge trend over the last decade where many diets were created, many 30-day programs, weight loss programs. Some people, they might have had good intentions, but they are there, your biggest cheerleader for 30 days. You might have seen results and then the program ends. Where do you go from there, right? So that company cashed in on you desperately trying to receive help and getting a quick fix, where at the end of the program you're left by yourself, right? So this money comes from, hey, I hear this protein works, I'm gonna buy it, or this this drink helps me lose weight faster, or a pill. Instead of making a long-term positive lifestyle change of contacting fitness specialists, right? Contact me or whoever you have. Talk about exercise that you can do forever, right? For the rest of your life that you can do, and eating habits that you can follow correctly and you know where to go beyond 30 days. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. So quick look at cardiovascular disease, the number one killer here. So it's a gradual increase of buildup in the artery. Okay, so you got that plaque going, hardens up, restricts the blood flow, creates a blood clot, either a heart attack or a stroke, right? So then those medical bills will keep racking up. So the risk factors here, the percentages grow in men over 45, women over 55. Alcohol, family history is huge, obesity, inactivity. Hammered these things home. So treatment, prevention, healthy eating habits, right? We all know what's good for us. It's a matter of eating it, right? Getting it in front of you. Buy it at the grocery store. Put it in the spot where you have to look at it and subconsciously tell yourself, hey, I need this today, or I need this for my snack. All right, so fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, fish, right? Poultry, lean meats. Put the steak down for, a month. Eat chicken and see if there's an impact there of cutting out some red meat or low-fat meats, or cutting out the high-fat. So we got the appropriate body weight, right? Cholesterol profile, keeping that blood pressure where it needs to be. Right, so then we got how your cholesterol comes into play, right? So HDL is the good stuff. You want that around 60 milligrams. LDL, the higher you go, is not good, so you want to keep that around 100. And then so optimal level, we're trying to keep it below 200 milligrams total. All right, so what are you at risk of if you have high blood pressure, right? So we've hit most of these: heart attack, heart failure, stroke, kidney failure, peripheral artery disease, developing fatty deposits in your arteries. But it's measured by it's the pressure of your blood against the walls of your artery. That's how we get blood pressure. All right, so reducing your sodium intake is big when it comes to blood pressure. So trying to cut down salt use. 90% of Americans, we consume too much, right? So about 1 in 3 adults have high blood pressure. Only about half have it under control, right? So we got some people struggling to maintain a healthy blood pressure. So goes back to medical costs, right? So first thing we do when we have high blood pressure, we go to the doctor. First thing he's going to do is he's going to prescribe you blood pressure medication, and a lot of people feel like they need to be on that until they die. Well, if you become healthy and adjust your habits, then if you have a healthy blood pressure, you'll no longer need the medication, which possibly could have another side effect causing something else wrong with you. So it just kind of stacks on top of each other as you go. So you want to be on the least amount of medication possible. All right, so categories. Okay, optimal, we want to try to be around the 120 over 80, possibly the 110 over 80 range. Elevated 120 to 129. Then high blood pressure, we're looking at 130 and above. And it starts getting worse when you start to reach 140 and up. So estimated effects. So reducing average population intake to 23 milligrams per day may reduce cases of hypertension by 11 million and save $18 billion in healthcare costs. So the obesity number we remember is 147 billion, and then you get that under control, you save $55 billion. Then you can save an additional 18 billion by just reducing your salt intake. And then, so we're trying to get it down more towards this 400 milligrams per day number, where we're eating or consuming about 5 times greater the amount of sodium than we should have. All right, so a diet that was created to reduce sodium was called the DASH diet. Okay, you can Google it if you are interested in that. But the reason why it's liked so much is it's not some fancy 30-day program. The DASH diet is really, it educates you on consuming healthy foods, eating your fruits and vegetables, your healthy fats for nuts and fish, and it's sustainable. You know, if you can get into that type of lifestyle, you can easily maintain that for the rest of your life, you know, years to come. So it's not something where they send you food for a month and then they tell you good luck, right? So trying to adapt or adopt good habits. All right, and we got diabetes mellitus here. Fastest growing disease in the country is type 2 diabetes. All right, so it's risen more than 25 million people, which is 9% of the U.S. population. And then eventually, you know, cause amputations and blindness if you cannot improve. So this should be a no-brainer when it comes to motivation to get rid of that or reverse it. All right, so we got 2 types of diabetes here. Again, fastest growing disease in the country. And then going over the blood glucose levels here. So pre-diabetes levels anywhere from 100 to 126 milligrams, and then anything over 126, you are considered diabetic. Okay, so type 1, your body just never produces insulin, all right, so you need the injections. Type 1 is the one that is not curable, right? So this is kind of just depends on your family history, how it develops. But if you have it, you should, hopefully you know you have it and you know what needs to be done when you are in an exercise type program. And as you see by the type 2 diabetes slide, 90 to 95% of all diagnosed cases for being obese, or not obese, having diabetes is type 2. So there's a very small percentage of people who have type 1. Type 2 is, it's in your hands, right? So no one's born with type 2 diabetes. You develop that by your lifestyle habits, right? So 80% of the people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes are obese, right? So massive number. Insulin resistance and deficiency is created, which causes the diagnosis. And then going back, Ben. So going back to those maps, right? Those should have been eye-opening. None of them were ideal, right? But if you specifically looked at the Hispanic and African American maps, there is so much higher rate of dark red states, okay? Just the eating habits alone and, you know, other factors that come into that with not being physically active and whatnot are at a greater risk, right? Older age, family history, of course, and then physical activity, lack of physical activity. All right, so treatments, always trying to regulate blood glucose. It says the disease cannot be reversed. Type 1, unfortunately, cannot, but there has been research saying that type 2 can very well be reversed, right? If you get back to a desired production of insulin by your body, okay? So I wouldn't say it's 100% of the time, but it has been shown that people have gained a reversed diagnosis, okay, for making excellent lifestyle changes. All right, then we got so many things that are related to nutrition. Bone breaks is a big one. As you age, making sure that you have healthy bones to grow older on is huge. Even nutrition can affect your mood. If you are constantly eating crappier foods, you're more likely to be, you know, angered or have a short temper towards somebody, rather than if you provide your body with plenty of nutrition that, you know, supports all of your systems the way they're supposed to, you might find yourself in a better, more energetic mood. All right, so that's the end of Module 1. Hopefully there's a lot of great information in there for everybody watching this. This is the time where, you know, whoever is the lead, have that discussion. If there's questions, you know, keep asking people, you know, what are your diet habits? What are your physical activity habits? How can we improve those? And make sure you're, you know, being honest with yourself. Make those positive changes. I'll be back with Module 2. Stay tuned.